He is a local attorney who spent time in prison for bribing a city councilman.
So why are city leaders and independents meeting with John Carnes behind closed doors?
41 Action News investigator Jessica McMaster pulled city contracts to get answers.
He's known around independents for having close ties to City Hall.
I do have suspicions.
John Carnes is a former independent city councilman who several years ago went to prison for bribing another member of the city council. And now 41 Action News investigators have learned city leaders are holding backdoor meetings with Carnes on controversial projects that involve millions of dollars. Last year, the city council awarded a contract to Environmental Operations, Inc. to buy, demolish, and remediate the city's old power plant, one of the most expensive contracts ever issued to a single company in the city's history.
I bring it up constantly. That was such a bad decision.
Environmental Operations, one of two companies deemed qualified for the job, bid the project just under $9 million, but that's twice as much as the low bidder.
We're talking about $5 million.
For reasons unknown to council members Karen DeLucy and Scott Robertson, their fellow council members directed staff to strictly negotiate with the high bidder in what they call a rush decision on a project that didn't need to happen in the first place.
EPA was not requiring us to do anything. And so my position was, why spend $10 million?
In 2016, 1 year before the city council hired Environmental Operations, this old agenda shows the company was invited to City Hall to give a presentation on the Missouri City project. Mayor Eileen Weir admits the invite was out of the ordinary.
I don't know who brought them in or why they were given that opportunity to present to the council.
3 weeks after the presentation, we came across a receipt that shows council members Kurt Doherty, Tom Van Camp, and John Perkins met with John Carnes to discuss Missouri City. Doherty submitted the receipt. He tells us Carnes was going to help the city finance the project.
He represented some guy who wanted to finance it.
That's ludicrous.
So you're saying that's a bogus claim?
Oh, I don't believe it for a minute.
We looked into Doherty's claims. City manager Zach Walker tells us the city planned to use funds from Independence Power and Light, the city-owned utility, and that outside financing was never considered. But 2 days after Doherty met with Carnes, a different receipt shows Doherty also dined out with the guy named Joe Campbell about the project.
I think he was wanting to finance that.
Both Carnes and Campbell previously backed up Doherty's claim that the meetings were about financing.
Assume that's true. Why are we meeting with Joe Campbell to finance Missouri City as a project? We don't do that. We have people on staff in the finance department who have established relationships with reputable lenders.
But it's not the first time Campbell's name came across our desk. In August, the 41 Action News investigators first told you about the controversy surrounding the sale of the old Rockwood golf course. Citing fears of the land being developed into Section 8 housing, the city council rushed to purchase the property, but what they did with it ticked off the people who live here.
Why would you take a pristine piece of property in the middle of the city and turn it into a solar farm?
You have to react to what's happening, and we had some push to get this done of a negative matter.
Councilman Van Camp led the way on the Rockwood purchase. Longtime owner of the land, Ron Brew, tells us Van Camp contacted him nearly 2 years ago about the city's potential interest in buying the land.
Wanted to know what the sale price was.
But when Brew met with Van Camp in person, someone else was there.
It was Tom Van Camp, city council member, and John Carnes.
No one around City Hall can confirm they had any knowledge Carnes was involved in discussions about Rockwood, including the mayor.
I wasn't aware of any of those meetings or discussions.
But there's another element to this. The city didn't buy from Brew. Several months after Brew met with Carnes, someone else came into the picture.
I got a call from Joe Campbell.
Records show Campbell bought the golf course from Brew for $550,000. Campbell then took his plans to the city to put in Section 8 housing. So 2 months later, the city paid Campbell $985,000 for the property, a $435,000 profit.
I don't doubt for a minute there's something going on.
In 2013, the city entered into a contract to purchase the old medical center of Independence, now home to IPL. Records show Carnes represented the seller who the city agreed to purchase the property from for $1.5 million. But at some point, and for reasons unknown, Campbell came in and completed the deal for $2 million.
Why do they keep popping up in these more controversial dealings with the city?
I don't know. I really don't know. They're high dollar items. They all deal with IPL.
Joe Campbell didn't want to speak with us about this story. John Carnes tells us he'd rather stand out in a snowdrift than speak with us, though he did issue this statement that in part reads, "The negative comments of my critics are fiction and fantasy." He goes on to say that vendettas, feuds, and grudges are recreational activities in Independence. Outside City Hall tonight, I'm Jessica McMaster, 41 Action News.
We have done several investigations into the City Hall in Independence. You can find more of them at kshb.com. Just click under the Investigators tab.